interesting, very informative speechcraft presentation. We will have Alfred's presentation available through a Google Share Drive. We are creating a folder for all the presentations from today, and you will be able to download Alfred's presentation. So thank you. Now, I'd like to move on to our next group of speakers. We have, and I want to make sure that we have everyone behind the scenes, so to speak, all ready to go. We have our next speaker will be Distinguished Toastmaster, Division G Director, Greg Mauro. His presentation will be on the hybrid meeting. So before I do that, I want to make sure we're double checking on time. Greg, you will be giving a 25-minute speech.
Yeah, about 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay, 20 to 25 minutes with the Q&A of 5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Pete, are you all set as our timer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then David, our logistics manager, chat monitor, you're all set? David?
Yes, I am.
Okay, wonderful. Just want to make sure this is a team effort that we're doing today. All right, so please help me welcome Distinguished Toastmaster, Division G Director, Greg Mauro. The hybrid meeting. The hybrid meeting. Take it away, Greg.
Thank you very much, Madam District Director and fellow Toastmasters. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting, because there are so many of you here, let me start my show. Please give me a thumbs up. I almost said quiet thumb because I'm a teacher. Please give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. All right, excellent. Today's presentation will be on Toastmasters hybrid meetings, which are the best of both worlds. As all of us have experienced in almost the past 2 years, many of our Toastmasters events, but not only Toastmasters events, but our workplaces, our family meetings are held online. And when we were all online, we just used a computer, we were all logged into a virtual world. We didn't meet in person at all. Now we're transitioning back to hybrid meetings. With that comes a unique set of challenges that a number of clubs have been experiencing. In fact, many clubs have hesitated because they feel that they do not have either the technical capabilities as far as the hardware, nor the knowledge necessary to set it up. I'm here today to debunk both of those and to let you know that with just a little bit of money and technology that most of you, if not all of you, already have in your arsenal, as well as a little bit of effort, you can put on an effective hybrid meeting and have the best of both worlds. And no, this is not Hannah Montana best of both worlds for those who had kids growing up in the early 2000s. A little bit about myself for those who have not had the pleasure of meeting. I have been a Toastmaster for 6 years. I'm currently the president of Central Valley Toastmasters in Fresno. I was an area G1 director in 19 and 20. I am your current Division G director and was the Zoom master for the 2020 District 33 speech contest. I am a 3rd grade teacher and a new teacher induction coach. So I have virtually been online pretty much almost the past 2 years. In fact, if I'm online anymore, I will probably become bored. And I am married with 3 children and 2 stepdaughters. So how do we do a hybrid meeting? As you can see here, this person has a couple of the very well needed devices necessary to do a hybrid meeting. And we all possess the 2 that's right there. Number 1, who's on a computer today? A tablet, a phone. 100% of us, or else we wouldn't be in this meeting. And then we all probably have a cell phone, a smartphone of some kind. These are some basic requirements for a Zoom hybrid meeting. You need a strong and consistent internet connection. Most places that's going to be a Wi-Fi connection. If you have access to Ethernet, that's even better. especially the Zoom Master should have a an Ethernet connection. You need to have a dedicated Zoom Master. For example, I'm going to pick on TLC Toastmasters. That's one of the clubs that I'm a member of. TLC Toastmasters rotates the role of Zoom Master. They took their greeter role, which was the person who would greet everybody when they entered the physical meeting space. And when we went online, transitioned that role to a Zoom Master. And that person was the one who managed getting people into the meeting and making sure that everything was running smoothly in Zoom. You need to have access to a pro Zoom account. Most likely, I know in District 33, every area should have a Zoom account that they are going to be able to share. If not, the pro account costs $15 a month. If you multiply that by 12, it's actually $14.99, but we'll say 15. Multiply that by 12, that's $180. Divide that by 2, that's $90 every 6 months. And if you divide that $90 by the aforementioned 20 members that our prior speaker mentioned should be in a club, you would get that to virtually a few dollars per member per membership cycle. So even if you did not have access to a free account, the club could purchase one and you could pass on the cost in club fees. You would need a device to serve as a microphone and camera at the lectern. You would need a projector or monitor, which displays the Zoom participants to the in-person attendees, and a location without a lot of background noise, such as a library meeting room or office meeting room. What you don't want is to meet in a place where there is a lot of noise in the adjacent room, because then every time someone's speaking, all of our online attendees will be hearing that background noise. So you want to be in a place such as the Betty Rodriguez Library that Stellar Toastmasters meets in, or in a company meeting room like TLC Toastmasters does when they meet in Yes Realty office in Fresno, California. So what are the basic equipment you need? And I'm going to go more into detail for each of these. A cell phone with a tripod is a great idea. Have a cell phone, put it on a tripod so that the speakers can actually speak and look into it. A small projector that can project onto a whiteboard or blank wall, a laptop for the Zoom Master, and access to a pro Zoom account, and a secondary device to display the room. It's optional, but it's recommended. Now, specifically, where could you get a mini projector? A mini projector, and I just priced them out recently, costs anywhere between $50 and $100. You can go to Best Buy, go to Amazon, and you can get one for a low price. Why would you want to invest in a mini projector? Number one, it's lightweight. And because of its lightweight, it's portable. You can move it to your meeting space with minimal effort. And in-person attendees can view online attendees. As an educator, I have 2 to 4 students on any given day that are virtual. They attend online. In fact, one of them attends in Mexico, visiting family. By projecting those students onto my screen in my classroom, my in-person students, which comprises the majority of my 27 students, can see the online students, and there's a greater feeling of connection. A tripod, I priced them out. They're anywhere from about $15 to $30. Now, why would you want a tripod? Again, for the same reason that you would want to get the mini projector. It's very lightweight and it's portable. Have any of you ever tried to mount a computer or a phone on books, or stacking uneasy objects on top below it? If you have, you know, it just doesn't work. It goes like this, it falls down, it's clumsy. invest in a tripod, it's $15 to $30. And you could just put it a few feet from the lectern, and you've got a device that someone can speak into. They can be seen and they can be heard. It has an embedded microphone. Whether you have an iPhone or you have an Android, if you have a smartphone, you can download the Zoom app for it, and it's free. And here's the cool thing. Only the club has to have a pro account. Members do not have to have a pro account. You only need a pro account if you yourself are going to be holding meetings that are longer than 45 minutes in length, or if you're going to have over 100 people in your meeting. So the club gets a Zoom account. That's pro. Everybody else can, at their own choice, either get a pro or get the free. You log into the free account. So that cell phone that's on the tripod, it's a free, with a free Zoom account. And it could be with whoever is the owner of that phone. They just log into the meeting, they set it up. And of course, a cell phone. Most of us already have this. It serves as both the camera and the microphone for the speaker at the lectern. Devices with higher quality cameras and microphones are preferred. And it is recommended that they be connected to a power supply during a meeting. The reason for this is obvious. How many of us have looked at our phones at the beginning of the day and it's fully charged? We go through the day, it's 5, 6, 7 o'clock. It's time for that evening meeting. And oh no, we're down to like 30%, 20%. And it's getting that little red light there. Probably been there, I've been there too. You don't want that. So just to make sure, whenever possible, you want to plug your cell phone into a power source while it's being used during a meeting, because the worst thing to happen is for your technology to fail you in the middle of your speech or in the middle of an evaluation, because we want to use the technology in the best way possible to make the meetings as smooth and as close to an in-person experience as possible. And here are some other things you can use. If you have a tablet or an iPad, you can set that up as well. And you can use that for your speaker cam and microphone.
Greg, I have
Other
a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So are there certain functions that you might lose by using an iPhone as opposed to using a laptop during a meeting?
Yeah, yes. My recommendation is that if you are attending a meeting online, and if you're the Zoom master of a hybrid meeting, that you would use a laptop or a desktop computer. The functionality on iPads, tablets, and phones are different. I do not use Zoom on an iPad or tablet, so I'm not an expert on those platforms. I have used Zoom on a cell phone, and it's a lot more clunky to use than it is on a laptop or desktop. So just to kind of repeat, it is totally fine to use that cell phone as your speaker cam and microphone, because you're just gonna, it's kind of like Ron Popeil. If you remember the saying he used to say, set it and forget it. You're just gonna set it up for the meeting and you're just gonna leave it there for the entire meeting. But when it comes to the Zoom master and the attendees, it is a best practice in my experience to use a laptop or a desktop. It's just a lot easier in its functionality. And then a pro Zoom account. If you are on Zoom a lot and you plan meetings, for example, I have a pro Zoom account because I'm a teacher. Also, I do meetings with my division team, and I don't want to be stuck to the 45-minute limit. However, if you have not yet set up a free Zoom account, please, by all means, set up a free Zoom account. There's no obligation. There's no sales pitch. They're not going to come after you. But by you setting up your own Zoom account, it allows you to save meetings and create meetings in your profile. And it just makes it a heck of a lot easier, especially when you're doing backgrounds, which come into play if you're going to be the timer like Mr. Pete O'Brien is today. And towards the end of my presentation, he'll be flashing the green, yellow, and hopefully not red cards at me. Now, if your club has a little bit more resources, either because their meeting location has it built in, or the club chooses to use its funds in order to pay for these. For example, Visalia Toastmasters they used to in person do a $1 dues box, and they would collect $1 optional, never forced from members every week. And so they built a pretty big treasury. TLC Toastmasters would have that odd counter box where it's 5 cents per violation up to $1 at a meeting. If you have the money, or if you're meeting in a place with these resources, these following upgrades will make the experience better. But I have to emphasize, they're optional, but they make the experience a little bit smoother. Number one, you will see there's a wireless keyboard in this picture. You can see a wireless keyboard might help. TLC Toastmasters has a wireless keyboard, and the screen that they use is a computer as well. Now you'll see this is not the case of Airplane, where it's McCroskey in a picture and a picture and a picture. You'll see that exact same background on that phone, that is me. So you can see that as I'm presenting online, it's actually being shown on that camera. Now, when the in-person person speaks, then that will actually get to be the biggest thumbnail video on the screen. You'll also see behind it that there is an iPad. That iPad belongs to Nikki Stollard, who is in attendance today from TLC Toastmasters and has been Zoom master quite a bit in the meetings and making sure that things get set up and are smooth. This is another example of an upgraded technology. You'll see that there is a video screen. And you can see that all the people that are online on Zoom, as well as the upper left is that speaker cell phone. G. Warren Owens is president of TLC Toastmasters, is there. On the upper right is the actual camera that is on that, near that video screen. So having that to display, again, it gives a crisper picture. But by all means, if all you have is a mini projector, project it onto a whiteboard, like you see the whiteboard on the left-hand side of the picture. You can do that as well. Below that screen, you might notice there is a speaker bar. If you happen to have access to a speaker, it's excellent. If you don't have a fancy speaker bar like a Bluetooth, you can even bring like the $10 speakers that you get at Walmart that are on the cheap, because that will be better than the embedded speakers in your computer. Another thing that is an option, but I always have it, a battery charger. Because how many of us have had our phones die unexpectedly? All of us, right? You get one of these things from Amazon or Walmart or any place you buy your electronics. These things cost anywhere between 20 and up to $100. This one cost me about 20 bucks about 5 years ago on Amazon. I still use it. I charge it. You just charge it with, this one is the old-fashioned USB, the micro port, and then I can plug my phone into it and charge it. Why? Because if my phone runs out of energy, and that happens to be the phone that's my speaker view and microphone, I can plug this in and have that as an emergency power source. What are some considerations to have when you are in a hybrid meeting? Number one, make sure that you have a strong Wi-Fi connection. If you are at home, and I've mentioned this before to those of you who have attended my trainings on speech contests, please make sure, if at all possible, that when you are in a virtual meeting or hybrid meeting, that if you're home, that you're not having a lot of people doing high broadband applications. Examples of those would be video gaming, video streaming like YouTube. I have two stepdaughters that are 22 and 17. They love to be on their computers all the time. So when I'm doing events such as this, I will ask them, could you please make sure that you are maybe using your cell phone and your own internet and not the house internet when I'm online for this? Because that frees up more bandwidth for you to be online. If you are in the physical location and you're the Zoom master, you might not be able to ask the people there to limit their usage. Most likely, if you're meeting in the evenings, then the majority of the people who are working will be gone. So there'll be more available bandwidth for you to be online. But as always, and those of you who have heard me before, I've said it probably 100 times, please have an Ethernet connection whenever possible, because that is the more reliable connection of the two between your Ethernet and your Wi-Fi. And before you hold your first meeting hybrid, please test your equipment. Be at the physical location, turn on your Zoom, have somebody else log in, check it out. That means adjusting the projector, making sure that everything is set up. Because what you do not want is to have that hybrid meeting. It's the first one and everything just kind of falls apart. Now, we need to be gracious to each other because technology works until it doesn't. And this is a brand new world for all of us. But anything we can do on the front end of things to prepare ourselves to minimize those hiccups creates a much smoother transition and experience. Because as our first presenter mentioned, the in-person experience is optimal to really get that interpersonal connection. However, the online experience does allow us to engage with people regardless of geographical boundaries. And a lot of us work in jobs that have a portion of our day online, whether it's at home or we're meeting with others. So we can turn this opportunity to our advantage because we live in a brand new world where we will be online. We're not going to go back. Pandora's out of the box. And you know the old story, Pandora, she was never able to be put back in the box.
Greg,
But
I have another question for you.
yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, you know how you're talking about testing everything and doing
Yeah.
almost like a dress rehearsal before the meeting? Is there a
Yeah.
way that you can have the speakers come on before the meeting so that they can be part of that dress rehearsal? And
Oh,
test all their
yes,
equipment?
exactly. And in fact, thank you for reminding me of that. It's a very good practice in person, and it's even more important online. Please, please, if you're a speaker, come at least 15 to 20 minutes before a meeting. There is nothing that makes it more inconvenient than a person who comes right when the meeting begins. They haven't tested their technology, and all of a sudden they're not able to screen share because they don't know where the screen share button is on Zoom. They haven't tested the projection. So we are a volunteer organization, but we also are professionals. And that means making a commitment to doing it right. So just come 15 to 20 minutes before. And if you're new at this, you might want to open up the Zoom meeting 30 minutes before and have the speakers try it out 30 minutes before, just to really make sure. I see there's a few questions there. I'm going to be finishing up and then I'll have time for questions in a few minutes because I do want to make sure I get through all the considerations for hybrid meetings. One thing you want to also have, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, are backup devices. What do I mean by that? Make sure that people have phones. Make sure that you have a backup battery source, that maybe you have access to Ethernet connections, because you don't, and make sure also that your computer's plugged in you want to make sure that computer's plugged in so it's being charged. And if possible, you want other people to maybe bring their computers as well, just in case as a backup, because you never know what happens. Sometimes your computer restarts because it just updates. And if you've ever had an update and your computer doesn't restart for like 10 minutes because it's updating and it's like updating at 20%, 30%, 40%, and you're just like, grrr, why won't it restart? You want a backup device so that somebody else can log in on theirs, and then the Zoom mastery is taken care of. Thank you to Nikki Stollard of TLC for providing the pictures of their club's hybrid meeting setup. And now looks like we have a lot of questions. So Dr. Dave, let me know what the questions are, please. Thank you.
Okay, we have one from Dan Waldman. Dan, are you still there?
Okay, so
Hello, Dan.
I'm here, but I don't have a question.
Oh, you had
Oh.
your hand raised several times. Okay, so that's okay. We'll just move right along to Alan Mann.
How do you work around a situation where our old meeting place is a metal building? We attempted a test of a hybrid meeting a couple months back, and we got poor Wi-Fi. We assumed it was because building is an old Quonset hut. Is there a way, like some type of Wi-Fi booster that would work around some of those issues?
so the first thing you would want to, are you using the Wi-Fi that's in the building?
Yes.
Okay. You want to try to get as close to the router as possible. If you can, find a place that's as close to the router. That will get you the best connection. In the absence of that, if it's possible to ask the people that you're meeting at if there is a Wi-Fi booster in their building. In the absence of that, an Ethernet connection, if possible, might work. But I would have to I could answer your question more specifically if I talk to you individually and kind of learn more about the specifics of your situation.
Okay. I think I have your email address somewhere. I'll
Okay.
reach out to you.
Michael
Okay.
Pryl has written in a question here. I see we do have a couple more hands raised, but I want to make sure we get these others too. If you have challenges getting to the meeting until the last minute due to work schedules, explore options on how you might be able to arrive early, even if you're on the road.
That is definitely the case. In fact, you can always log into a meeting before it starts. It'll just say, wait for the host to start a meeting. And if you set up a waiting room, you can have people log in early and then just put people into the waiting room. And you can send a message to them in the waiting room saying that I see that you're here. Welcome to our meeting. We'll be letting people in at this time. And that's done at our district events too.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left. Let's see if we can get a couple more in quickly here. Carrie Slattery has a question for you. Carrie, can you unmute and ask your question, please?
Yes, hi. One question is, if an in-person speaker is doing a PowerPoint, you would normally have hooked up their iPad or computer to the projector, but it seems like that projector is already busy. I'm not really sure how that would work.
Actually, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can, well, if you're going to be online and you're presenting, you would log into Zoom. One way to do it is you can actually log into Zoom and just mute yourself, which is something I need to remind people of. Make sure that when you have multiple devices in a room, that only one of them has a sound enabled. So the way I've done it in meetings is I bring my own computer, I log into Zoom, I mute myself. And when I log into Zoom and mute myself, I share my screen. But because I'm doing it on Zoom, not only do the online people see it, but because it's the online Zoom meeting screen is projected, the in-person people can see it. So just bring your computer, log into Zoom and mute it.
So but the person who's doing a PowerPoint in the room, Are they just doing it from share screen rather than sending it to the projector?
They are doing it from a shared screen rather than sending it to the projector. And you're using your designated camera and microphone source, whether that is, you could have an iPad with a microphone, or you can have a camera, or a cell phone on a tripod. You're speaking into that. You're in person, but you're logged into Zoom. Your computer is muted and you're sharing it on Zoom. So not only do the online people see it, but the in-person people see it because it's being projected onto the screen or the wall or the whiteboard.
Hey, Greg, we